Wales, who's been in the thick of the action this week in the House of Parliament of Australia. Senator Hollie Hughes, welcome to the program. How are you?
I'm well.
Good. Before we delve into the machinations of the boiling pot that the government finds itself in, what's your stance on the brutal takedown of Ben Roberts-Smith, especially now that we hear today the two key criminal investigations into alleged murders involving him have been abandoned by the Australian Federal Police because of concerns over potentially inadmissible evidence? Now, it's still going on, but they're putting a task force together between a new Federal Police people and also members of the Special Investigator. What's your call on all of this?
Look, I was quite upset last week the week before with the findings against Ben Roberts-Smith in the defamation case. And, you know, I felt it sent a very, very bad message to all our servicemen and women. There certainly seems to be some concerted attack to a number of our servicemen and women, particularly those that served in Afghanistan. And I think I don't know what happened, but I can tell you if someone was coming over the walls here, I'd prefer Ben Roberts-Smith defending us rather than someone who's more worried in the Defence Forces about Wear It Purple Pride Transgender Day, which is where it seems that some people, both within and outside of the ADF, want to push our defence forces. It's absolutely extraordinary to see the diminishment of particularly our special forces and the very, very important role they played. I've had a number of conversations with friends, and a friend of mine who's a very good lawyer, one of her comments was, who told him to push ahead with this defamation case? Like, it was just, there's news and there's news and there's news that passes by and the world moves on. This has gone on for, 4 years, cost $20+ million. Yeah. And a civil trial and a defamation trial has a much different threshold than a criminal trial. So for that reason alone, it almost seemed like a silly thing to do with regards to the defamation, even though it was an awful thing that was said. He had gainful employment. I just think it would have been better left alone. But I do also think when it comes to military tribunals, when it's military investigations, they are better being held by the military, because I don't think you, I, or anyone else can possibly understand how, when people go into these roles, they're fundamentally broken down and built back up to do jobs none of us would ever be prepared to do. And it's something that none of us can ever understand. We don't know what these people see. I have a friend who was in the SAS for another country, and he, we were talking about it, and he told me stories of when they were out and child soldiers were being used by the forces they were against, that you would see kids in a field, and then as soon as you came close, they'd pick up the rifles and shoot at them. So, I don't think it's as clean cut as people want it to be. I don't think there's a certainty around what it is. And if you're getting into a situation where it's your life or not, those are decisions that are made very quickly, and, it's their life and death literally. So the whole thing is very smelly. I don't think it should have been done how it was. I feel very sorry, not only for him, but for all our servicemen and women that seem to be denigrated and brought down in this whole saga.
Okay, the word disgusting got a fair run from you yesterday in the Senate, Hollie Hughes. Labor's Finance Minister Katie Gallagher and her posse of racketeers did all they could yesterday to wipe their hands of very serious allegations that they used and weaponised information they received on an allegation of rape within Parliament House to bring down the government. Here's just some of what you said after Gallagher and others ducked and weaved.
Thank you, Deputy President. I have to say, I actually feel physically ill. The absolute hypocrisy shown by those opposite today is quite simply breathtaking. In fact, it's beyond that. It's actually disgusting. From a group who before the election were all about integrity and transparency, those in government, those that sit opposite, are now treating not only this chamber as if we're all mugs, but the Australian people Shame on you, and shame on all of you that are running a protection racket around this disgusting politicisation, absolutely disgusting weaponisation of an allegation. It is absolutely disgusting, and it is a protection racket being run for Senator Gallagher, and quite frankly, who else? We've been patronised today as Senator Gallagher has lectured us on her supposed integrity. She must be joking. I mean, seriously, that must be almost clinically diagnosable as delusionary, because that is unbelievable.
Wow. Protection racket. Explain that to us.
Well, it is just astounding. We've just left question time again, and the blatant refusal by Katie Gallagher to come clean on what she knew, when she knew it, who she spoke to, is just, you can see through it. You could drive a truck through it a mile wide, the gap. It's just the complete bunkering down that is occurring within the Labor Party as they bid to deflect and, move away from this issue. I don't think any reasonable person could look at this in any other way, that there was collusion between Miss Higgins, Mr. Shiraz, and what is clearly senior members of what was then the opposition leadership team, and now some of the most senior ministers in this country.
Because they were all Conservative haters, Hollie.
Well, it was really funny because it was this morning. I actually read a brilliant piece in The Australian by Janet Albrighton, and it was just spot on in the way that it surmised everything. But as I read it, I sort of had this sort of almost flashback. You might remember a few years ago, we had the March for Women or something like that was out the front of Parliament House, and Lisa Wilkinson did the big introduction of Brittany Higgins, who wore all white like the suffragettes, and, got up there and made these claims. And I remembered that I'd actually done an interview that day with, all places, ABC Radio, Radio National, where I had said that not only was I not going, I wasn't going because this event had been nothing but politicised, and that the organisers, when they were invited in to meet with the Prime Minister, had declined the opportunity.
That's right.
But we actually found, I said to Jono, my staff at Jono, I said, can we try and find that? Anyway, we had to listen to it this morning, and what I was actually reminded of, and I'd forgotten, most Conservative women weren't actually even invited to it. So they said, they claimed they'd invited all politicians to attend. And we had gone through all my email address. I've got a private one and a public one. We'd gone through the junk files in both. We'd gone through absolutely everything. And I had not received an invitation. And speaking to a number of colleagues in the Senate, female colleagues in the Senate, they had also not received an invitation. So,
Conservative haters only.
Yeah, Conservative women were not included. And we know that we're the wrong kind of women. When we get abused, we deserve it. And I think that's just been highlighted in the behaviour that was displayed, particularly by Katie Gallagher, but also by Senator Wong and Senator Keneally at the time, in their badgering and bullying of Linda Reynolds in the Senate and in estimates, and the number of questions that they put to her in the most unbelievably aggressive way, to the point that Linda was actually hospitalised. The stress actually led to Linda being hospitalised. But in Janet Albrighton's piece today, she actually makes the claim, or makes the statement, it's a statement, it's not a claim, that the only two women through this whole saga that actually suggested to Miss Higgins that she go to police, one actually accompanied her, was Fiona Brown and Linda Reynolds. So all of this faux outrage, these claims by Labor that they were protecting this woman, they were so outraged and upset by her claims, and we now know they were aware of them before her televised interview. Not one of them has been able to say they referred her to the police, that they offered to accompany her to the police, that they in any way helped her navigate a justice system. I think Margaret Cunneen made some great comments yesterday as well, because Katie Gallagher was claiming in the Senate yesterday that by questioning her, it was going to frighten other women from putting forward sexual assault.
That's right.
And it was Margaret Cunneen, who is a fantastic barrister for defence now, but has spent a very long career as a public prosecutor, that she actually felt that it was the reverse. It actually was a very good reminder to us all that women are very well protected by the law. If they were to make a sexual assault claim, they can do so anonymously. They can enter a courtroom without having to come through the front door so that they can maintain anonymity. They do not have to in any way address the media or anybody else whilst that goes through the justice system. Miss Higgins, and it is evidenced by her conversation and the recordings we've all heard now from her and Lisa Wilkinson, was a deliberate decision and a media strategy devised in how to go after Scott Morrison, to go after Linda Reynolds. I find it extraordinary that the person that was accused of this alleged rape is never mentioned. His name never comes up. But in this devising of this media strategy, it's all about attacking the then government and going after the Prime Minister and other ministers. I mean, the whole thing is revolting.
And as the Australian reports today, so much for protecting these future victims by keeping Brittany Higgins' name under the table. Over a 2-year period, Senator Gallagher mentioned Brittany Higgins' name 135 times.
The hypocrisy is just, it is actually incredibly difficult, Chris, to sit in there and watch this happen in real time.
I bet.
The fact that they can spout these lines and deliver retorts in just such an indignant and sanctimonious way, it's actually stomach-turning. Like, I had a physical reaction yesterday listening to them. And I was particularly, actually felt quite upset because Kimberley Kitchen, who was actually a Labor senator but was my next-door neighbour in Parliament House and it was a great friend, she passed away last year. But when not long before Kimberley died, she was dumped from the tactics team when they believed that she had informed Senator Reynolds of their plans to weaponise this alleged rape allegation. That Kimberley was then bullied by Senators Wong, Gallagher and Keneally, referring to them as the mean girls. But you could see in Kimberley in the last sort of months of her life, she lost a lot of weight. You could see the stress and pressure that she was under on her physically. And my heart was just breaking yesterday when I don't think any of us could fully comprehend the venom and bile that was able to be delivered by these people and what she must have experienced in those final weeks and months of what turns out to be now her life, in the way that they treated her in their absolute unfettered drive to weaponise and politicise this allegation. It really is beyond the pale. If you wrote this as a fictional book, the editor would tell you it's just too far-fetched.
Meanwhile, former Defence Minister Linda Reynolds is suing Labor Minister Tanya Plibersek, claiming she defamed her in a television interview about Brittany Higgins, which proves a lot of things. Firstly, that the brickbats are flying in all directions, but a few within Labor ranks may have crossed the line on more than one occasion by the sound of it. I'll let you get back to what you do normally, not dilly-dally here on TNT Radio, but thank you very much for your insight, expertly enunciated. Thank you.
Have a good week, Smithy.
Good on you. Same to you. Hollie Hughes, who took the gloves off in the Senate yesterday. And that's exactly what the Labor government deserved.